They thought they could silence me. They thought they could kill the joy of one simple BBQ party. What they didn't know was that this time, the entire neighborhood and even the mayor was ready to stand by my side. It started as a simple idea, a summer BBQ in my own backyard. I wanted to invite neighbors, friends and family for good food, music and laughter. Nothing extravagant, just burgers on the grill, kids playing in the yard, and a few lawn chairs scattered around. But in my neighborhood, nothing is ever simple. Because the HOA lurks like a storm waiting to strike. They had rules for everything, from grass height to mailbox paint. The moment I sent out invitations, whispers spread. By the time the grill was delivered, I already received my first warning letter. They claimed the noise, parking, and gathering would be disruptive. I laughed it off, thinking it couldn't be serious. But when I woke up the next morning, a notice was nailed to my door, threatening to shut down the party completely. And that was just the beginning. The HOA president, a sharp-eyed woman with a permanent scowl, patrolled the neighborhood as if it were her personal kingdom. She claimed my BBQ would set a dangerous precedent for the community. I couldn't help but wonder what precedent. That neighbors might actually enjoy themselves? Still, she doubled down. Flyers appeared in mailboxes declaring my event unauthorized. She even claimed outdoor cooking was a fire hazard. Despite dozens of neighbors grilling every weekend, the hypocrisy was staggering. I felt a mix of frustration and determination. This wasn't just about burgers, it was about principle. If they could crush something this harmless, what else could they take away? I refused to back down. As I prepped the yard, the HOA circled closer, determined to intimidate me. And on the morning of the BBQ, I spotted something that nearly made my stomach drop. Several HOA board members stood at the edge of my driveway, clipboards in hand, watching me like vultures. They scribbled notes about every detail, where I placed chairs, how many cars were parked, even the balloons I tied to the fence. Their mission was clear: find any excuse to shut me down. My guests started arriving nervously, whispering about the HOA's presence. The smell of charcoal and sizzling burgers filled the air, but so did tension. I plastered on a smile, determined to keep the party alive. But just when the music began, the HOA called the police, reporting unlawful activity. I froze, terrified the cops would shut everything down before it even began. Sirens echoed in the distance, and I braced myself for humiliation. But when the police car pulled up, something unexpected happened. The officer stepped out, surveyed the scene, and sighed. He saw nothing illegal, nothing disruptive, just families enjoying a summer afternoon. The HOA president rushed forward, demanding action. But the officer calmly explained there were no violations. My guests cheered quietly, relief washing over them. But the HOA wasn't done. They sneered, saying the party was still subject to removal under community bylaws. That word removal lit a fire inside me. This was my home, my yard, my grill. If they wanted a fight, they'd get one. I quickly rallied my neighbors, urging them not to be intimidated. One by one, more residents showed up, some bringing extra food, others carrying folding chairs. The party wasn't shrinking, it was growing. And when the HOA tried to block the driveway, someone powerful stepped forward, sending shockwaves through the crowd. It was the mayor. To my astonishment, he'd heard about the HOA's antics from frustrated locals and decided to see for himself. He walked right into my yard, shaking my hand firmly and smiling at the guests. The HOA president's face turned pale as the mayor grabbed a plate of ribs and sat down like he belonged there. The crowd erupted into laughter and applause. In that moment, the HOA lost their power. Still, they muttered threats about fines and legal action, scribbling furiously on their clipboards. But the mayor wasn't about to let them ruin the day. He raised his glass and gave a short, powerful speech about community freedom and standing against unnecessary control. The guests roared in agreement. But just as victory seemed certain, the HOA pulled one final desperate move. They claimed the party violated fire safety codes and threatened to shut off my power. People gasped, children stopped playing, and for a second silence fell. My stomach tightened. Could they really do that? The mayor, however, calmly pulled out his phone and made a quick call. Within minutes, the city's fire chief arrived. He inspected the grill, the yard, the setup, and then shook his head with a smile. Perfectly safe, he announced. The crowd exploded in cheers, while the HOA president stood frozen, her authority crumbling. The mayor leaned closer to her and said something I couldn't hear. but the look on her face was priceless. She turned scarlet, clutching her clipboard like a shield. The HOA stormed away in humiliation, but the fight wasn't over yet. Because the next day everything changed. By morning the story had spread like wildfire. Pictures of the mayor at my BBQ were all over social media, shared by neighbors and even local news. The HOA, once feared, became a laughingstock. Their endless rules were finally being questioned. Not just by us, but by the entire city. Neighbors who had felt powerless now stood tall, demanding fairness and freedom from unnecessary control. As for me, I felt more than vindicated. What began as a simple BBQ had turned into a turning point for our community. The HOA tried to silence me, but instead they united us all. My yard was filled with laughter until the stars came out. And as the last guest left, I smiled. Knowing one thing, they tried to shut me down. But in the end, they only made me louder.